Hey everyone, it's Blair here at Time Trades. Thanks for joining me this weekend. This is your weekly video for January 8th. Quick announcement before we get into this. I'm going to be reducing the number of symbols that I cover on this video. I want to focus more on quality than quantity. So one of the things I'm going to be doing is cutting back on the number of individual companies that I cover and focusing more on indexes and crypto. So that's going to be the focus going forward. That should help to reduce the time spent on the video and also still provide you with the information you need. Remember again, the focus of this video is on showing some of the capabilities of time trades. This really isn't intended to be sort of like a forecast service that I do on YouTube. So I'm trying to find that balance there for you. Okay, with that out of the way, let's dive in and take a look at the Qs. And we're going to start by reviewing the prior forecast and give ourselves a rating for this. So you can see here the yellow line for the prior forecast. Now this yellow line is really 6 weeks old, right? So we've basically been forecasting this since I think like early December, and we were calling for a move up into early January for over a month now. And while we got a move up on Friday, it wasn't of the magnitude that I envisioned. So I would give myself maybe a C plus B minus here, because certainly I got the direction correct starting from the 29th of December. And however, the magnitude was not correct. Okay, so let's go with a B minus here because I think direction was good. However, magnitude left a bit to be desired. All right, so we did end up getting that long-awaited pump. It came in about a week later than expected. So what's next? What do we think is going to happen next here? All right, so let's take a look at what we can find out from time trades. You'll notice time trades has a little different look and feel here. I did add support for dark mode and delivered that yesterday. That was part of our roadmap. And I'll give a short roadmap update soon. So when we look at the Qs, one of the things I noticed here is when we combine the cheat code, which is the purple lines and the teal lines, and this is a lunar cycle, and when we combine that with the short-term waves, so I'll just show you the settings here. We've got short-term waves on. This is the yellow line, which is Mercury speed, and the light blue, which is Mercury and Venus separation. So those are those two lines. When we combine it with the cheat code, which again is a lunar cycle, we get some really interesting results here. And when you look at the Mercury-Venus separation, which is light blue, and when that makes an inflection point here, that tends to identify pivots. And we can see here how we just had an inflection point of that back in late December, okay? But if we go back in time, we can see how this tends to identify pivots actually mostly quite well. So these pivots tend to be significant, but also the pivots that align with a cheat code teal line tend to be more significant than others. So here's a pivot here in Mercury-Venus separation that turned out to be a minor one. It was just a little blip really in a major uptrend, but this did not align with a cheat code teal. We come back over here and we see a cheat code teal, and that aligned pretty closely with a Mercury-Venus separation inflection point within maybe about a week, and that turned into a more major pivot. So the major pivots do tend to align when these two items come together, and that's what we've got happening coming up in late January, right? So we've got a cheat code teal combined like about a week before an inflection point on the Mercury Venus separation. And that's really interesting to me because that looks like it could be a major pivot. Now, the open question is to figure out, okay, which way is the pivot going? And to answer that, let's go back and take a look at what happened last week. So if we go over to TradingView, we can see here on TradingView that we had a Gann wave blue, and that really is sort of that's another lunar cycle, and that tends to be the low of the lunar cycle, and that headed up into a Gann wave yellow. And of course, we also had a full moon yesterday. So there's a lot of positives in the lunar cycle over the last 2 weeks. However, that was offset with Mercury. And Mercury, you can see here by the yellow line, was decreasing in speed, and it went into retrograde December 27th. That's when it crosses the 0 line here. And it reached peak retrograde, which is the maximum speed of relative to Earth. So it reached a maximum speed relative to Earth on Friday, and it's going to continue to be in retrograde, but in decreasing negative speed relative to Earth. So it's slowly going to accelerate by decelerating less, if that makes sense, and then it'll finally re-enter direct motion or forward motion on the 24th of January here. So what we're seeing is kind of a flip from a regime of positive moon and negative Mercury to a regime of negative moon and positive Mercury for at least the next 2 weeks. So there isn't a super strong alignment between those two. If there was, it would be a really easy forecast, but there isn't. So what we need to do is we need to be very cautious as we move forward here and not over rotate in one direction or another. I think ultimately this will resolve up into late January. However, we need to keep in mind the rest of the macro story here. And there's other reasons to look for a low coming into either early March or early April. So we've got a couple of time horizons here for a potential low, and we've already identified an edge that could identify a pivot high here in February. So if we were to turn on the mass pressure index, so to do that, we need to switch to the SPX, and we can turn on the mass pressure index, which is another little edge that we have here in time trades. Now, the mass pressure index is a composite of the last 10, 20, and 60-year cycle. And this gives us an idea on what we can expect going forward here. And we thought that we would get a bigger boost last week based on this large green mass pressure index candle. We did not get that. We got a little bit of a boost at the end of the week. So in this coming week, the mass pressure index is calling for a smaller boost up. Then going forward, we can see it decline into early March, but then it starts to turn the corner and head up into late March and April. So this gives us an interesting edge here in terms of interpreting the time trades probabilities. Okay, so based on everything, what does that mean for us in the coming week or two? So let's go over to TradingView and we can update our forecast. So this is the existing forecast. We already rated that. Let's go and unhide the new forecast that I developed this morning, and I'll explain where this is coming from. So we had a nice move up on Friday. I think we may open a little bit higher on Monday. However, there is some negative astrology coming in on Tuesday and Wednesday. We also have some news events happening. So let's turn on the calendar. We've got Powell speech on Tuesday morning, and we've got the CPI numbers on Thursday. So those are two items to be aware of. You'll notice that, ultimately, I don't think we're going to make a heck of a lot of progress up this week, again, because of these offsetting, positive and negative of the moon and of Mercury. So we've got the moon shifting into more of a negative stance. We've got Mercury shifting slowly into a more positive stance. And I think that's going to result in another choppy week here, with potential volatility around these two major news events. So it's probably a good idea to be very cautious in terms of your trading here. I've also added in the forecast here another green box for the week of January 30th through February 3rd. And this is up here targeting this yellow Gann wave, Gann wave yellow up here on that's happening on February 3rd. And if we go and take a look at time trades, we can also see that January 30th is the date of that cheat code teal, which is the midpoint between lunar eclipses, eclipse seasons, I should say. So this is the midpoint between eclipse seasons. And as we've already seen, it identifies major pivots. So what I'm thinking is this will identify a time window of a high before we drop down into a low into March. I do not know if that low in March is going to be a lower low or a higher low. So I'm just going to, I don't really have an opinion on that right now. So we shall see what happens. But we've also provided some new tools to help you stay on the right side of the trend, and that's always super important. So we recorded a tutorial yesterday on how to use time trades to square the chart and create Gann fans. And Gann fans can be super helpful in that. So let's turn those on, and we can see here what the Gann fans look like on the NQ futures. And this chart has been squared according to the instructions in the video I recorded yesterday, and I drew those fans. So you can go and check out that recording to learn how to do that using time trades. But we can see here we've got this 1-by-1 angle coming up from last week's low on Wednesday. So this is what we're going to use for confirmation to stay on the right side of the trend. And I fully expect that that price is going to struggle to get through some of these descending 1-by-1 angles. These are the light blue lines here. So it'll need to put in some work, right? So it's very important to understand this and be patient. This isn't going to, I'm not expecting there to be a massive trend up here until we start to get Mercury and the moon pulling in the same direction, which will really start on the 23rd of January. Hopefully by then we'll have put in the work and established a strong base from which we can push up into this green target box here. I've located that target box based on this Gann fan line here. This is the 2-by-1 descending, and also the magic level here at 12,233. Okay, so that's our new forecast going forward. We'll see how this performs, but I think it's important to be very, very nimble, very cautious, and not over rotate on either side of the trade in the next couple of weeks until the moon can turn a little bit more positive here, starting the week of the 23rd of January. Okay, so that's that. Let's go and take a quick look at the Dow, and we will turn on the mass pressure index here, and we will turn off short-term waves because we already talked about that. And the Dow has, again, a very bullish looking mass pressure index going forward, which aligns with a little top here. And after that, it's declining, or the mass pressure index is showing a decline starting January 19th, or the week of January 18th or so, 17th, 18th, and showing a decline there into February 8th. So I actually think that we might end up pushing up a little bit higher here into this area, into January 30th, again, because of the history of these cheat code teal lines. Okay, let's, before we go on to crypto, let's do a quick roadmap review, because I did deliver some important functionality here over the last couple of weeks. So as of January 8th, we've got the mass pressure index done for SPX and DJI with 10, 20, and 60-year cycles. So that's in your hands. What I still want to do here is a mass pressure index using shorter term cycles for symbols with less price history. So that's on the to-do list. We added the fine-grained intraday signals. Those are the Vedic intraday signals. So those were added on December 10th, about a month ago. Those have proven to be super useful for day trading. And we've had a number of very successful forecasts based on those at an intraday level. We're always improving usability here. So we just added dark mode support. So you can see the result of that in this recording. So this is the first one done using dark mode. And we still want to add search on influencers. And we added in that new GANFAN tutorial video yesterday. So we're making good progress on the roadmap here. Okay, so with that, let's go and take a look at crypto. We're going to flip over here to Bitcoin, and you can see the GANFAN here that I've anchored on the Bitcoin chart. Now, Bitcoin's chugging along here just underneath the magic level at 17,032. It's made a few attempts to try to get through. This one, of course, got pushed back. Now, one of the things, when you zoom out a little bit, one of the things that I find interesting about this is I always try to look for patterns around the GAN wave yellows and GAN wave blues to see if there's any sort of repeating pattern here. And you'll notice after a blue, we tend to get a dip a couple days. After a blue, we get a dip. After a blue, well, there was not much of a dip here in October, but there was in September, okay? And we got the same thing over here on Friday, December 23rd. It took about 4 or 5 days, and then we got a dip around the 28th, 29th. Okay, but that never gathered enough strength to really challenge this lower magic level here. And now we're coming up to this GAN wave yellow. So what kind of patterns do we see here? Well, the GAN wave yellow preceded a pump by about 4 days. Over here, there wasn't anything on November 22. I guess you could say we got a little bit of a pump, but that was right after this crash here. So we were still digesting that. Over here in October, we got a pump about a week later. Over here in September, we got a pump starting about a week later again at the green. So what this leads me to believe is if that pattern is going to repeat, we're going to see a pump right around January 14th. So let's go over to time trades and take a look at that and see what it has to say about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's got a few green bars here, but not much. We're not really getting a lot of edge from the daily forecast here on Bitcoin. But what we are seeing is a pivot high over here, January 21, 23. So let's go and turn on Gann waves, and we'll turn off cheat code. And what we see here is a pivot high coming up into that area. So it looks like there may be a case to be made to take a bit of a bullish stance here starting in about a week and targeting this pivot high here that's forecast to align around the Gann wave blue. Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Ethereum. All right, so Ethereum, let's just turn off gaps so we get rid of that message. Ethereum, again, it's putting in some work underneath the square of 12. These are these two EMAs, the 144 and 103. I think the key for me is this magic level here at 1363. If Ethereum can really cross that strongly, that would be a good point, good confirmation signal of a swing trade long. So let's go and take a look at what Time Trades is saying about Ethereum. Ethereum is showing a bit of a pivot low here, January 19th, but then a big pivot high in early February. So it looks like it may have a little bit more work to do here before heading up. And again, this would be my confirmation level right around 1364. Or what you can do is create some Gann fans using the method I described, and use crossing one of those Gann fan lines as your confirmation as well. Okay, with Litecoin, Litecoin has come back to the magic level here like we thought it would, but it looks like it's got a bit of a forecast headwind here. But we are seeing a pivot low January 17th. So that may be a good opportunity to kind of re-enter long here. Take a close look at this to see if it's to see if it can generate any momentum here. Really looks like it's struggling to get through this magic level, given the wicks that we see. Do some volume analysis on it. But overall, the machine learning probabilities are forecasting more headwinds for Litecoin through, mid-January to maybe January 20th here with the Gann wave blue, but then we see some positive probabilities return here January 26th. So not seeing a great case long on Litecoin, maybe a better short trade at the moment. Okay, and to wrap things up, I want to look at the NIFTY. So this is NSEI. And NIFTY had a big flush down. We got a nice little pivot low here aligning with Gann wave blue, but it's also struggling to get some momentum moving up. So we actually see some more downwards momentum around January 17th, but then a pivot high here February 16th. And I think a lot of the commentary that I shared on North American stocks would also be applicable to the NIFTY. So let's take a look and see how that looks when we turn on the cheat code, which is really the I guess the anchor point for our bullish forecast heading into the week of January 30th to February 3rd. We see it's right in the middle between a couple of pivots. Now, what does that mean? Well, these pivots could invert, but I still would like to see the NIFTY head up into this into this cheat code teal because I do believe that it will follow the rest of the markets up into this period, and then this is a strong likelihood for a pivot, and then I think we're going to see price come down here into March, and we can see the big clusters of red here, and we also see a pivot low in late February. So again, I think Nifty has got some work to do. We see a chance for it to move up into this cheat code teal period here in late January. Okay, so that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Good luck this week. Trade small and trade safe. Thank you. Bye now.